Kia ora team. Video lecture this week, so you can watch from the comfort of your own home, in your pajamas should you wish, or just a towel. I don't know, it's entirely up to you. But this week I just want to bring you up to speed because we missed class on Monday because of the public holiday, but I don't want you to miss the material. So this week we're talking about what you can do to make sure that the campaign that you come up with for Neurological Foundation is really solid and looks and feels like a campaign across all your executions. Campaigns are the gold dust of advertising, right? So the reason campaigns are really important is that they bring in money over and over and over again to the agency. If you produce a campaign, it's a big job, and if it's a really solid campaign, it could be a campaign that runs for years. Now, a client is not going to change their agency in the middle of a successful campaign, so that's why they're like gold dust. Okay, but what is it that turns a series of ads into a campaign? Is it the colour? If you look at McDonald's, you've got that classic brand colours that make their campaigns instantly recognisable. Is it the typography? Is there a slogan that's used? Is it that they always use photography or always use illustrations? Is it to do with the art direction, the tone of voice, the humour, the music or the jingle? Does it always have a famous personality? Is there a character that's easily identifiable? And the really logical one to look to there is Pak'nSave with Stickman. It could be one of those things, it could be all of those things. But more often than not, it comes down to one line, okay? One thing that makes a campaign is a unity of thinking. This is by Dave Trott. You should check out Dave Trott. He is an advertising legend, and he has a series of articles. There's a web page, definitely worth following on social media as well. But unity of thinking is what makes a campaign a campaign. So here's an example. This is for a store that sells shirts for $20. All their shirts are just $20, right? So here's an ad for them. Shirt $20, shirt $100. We give you something they don't, $80 change. That's kind of a standalone ad. Or this one, shirt $100 or 5 other shirts for $20. Which looks better, their shirt or our shirts? Shirt, belt, socks, aftershave, pants, or a shirt for $100. An entire outfit for the cost of a shirt. So you're getting the message with these, right? That these shirts are $20. But does it feel like a campaign? Not quite yet. Shirt, $20. Which looks better, the shirt or the price? Tough one, eh? Again, just feels like an ad. But here, when you add, obviously, the brand name, which is Shirty, and the tagline, an attractive shirt at an attractive price, all of a sudden it's starting to come together. There's the unity of thinking, there's a clear idea. And when you add that to each of these executions, now it feels like you've got a campaign. Yeah? So that line makes the campaign. Now, good old Dave says an end line is not the most important part of an ad, but it's the first part. It's the most important part of a 5 or 10 year campaign. Right? And you'll know campaigns that have had the same tagline for years and years and years. Right? The warehouse, where everybody gets a bargain and a money back guarantee. Nike, just do it. Yep. At its best, an end line is like the punchline of a joke. Without the punchline, it's incomplete, right? And doesn't make much sense. So it finishes it off and pulls everything together. An end line is supposed to totally express what you feel about the brand. So the end line is advertising made simple, which is why it always starts to pay with, it pays to start with the end line. End lines are also mnemonic devices. So a mnemonic device is a device that helps you to remember something. Richard of York gave battle in vain is a mnemonic device for remembering the order of the colours of the rainbow. Right? So here's an example of one. Now Ariston is, it's an appliance company, like a whiteware company. and they are known for having really long-lasting products. So all their products come with a 5-year guarantee right off the bat. And this is telling you that Ariston and on and on and on, that's their end line. That helps you remember the name, but it also helps you to remember that their point of difference is that they are built to last. Okay, here's another one. This is a British umbrella company, NURPS, and their line is "You can't Kanaka a Knurps." Right, so basically they're like blunt umbrellas. No, they'll stand up to anything. That's their end line. It tells you something about the brand and it helps you to remember it. So the end line holds a campaign together. It's glue. Yeah. We've seen this before. Small but tough. Polo. Okay. So this is an ad that's an illustration. There's no other copy, but it's got that end line, small but tough. This is a photographic execution. Again, you might think looking at the two that they're completely different, but what pulls them together is that line, small but tough. Here's another way to show small but tough. Or variations on the tough new polo. Yep. This is a great part of their campaign. So what they did was they ran crosswords in UK newspapers, one a day or a couple a week. And these were really tough crosswords. So the answers were always just 3 letters. There were only ever 2 clues, but they were really tough, right? So that's another way of taking the campaign idea, small but tough, and presenting it in a different way. And even though it's completely different from this and this, it's another way of showing small but tough. So it feels like it's part of the campaign. Yeah. The very best end lines are good enough to be headlines. And sometimes you might flip them, right? You might think you've got a great headline and you've written it as a headline, and then you're struggling to get other headlines for the rest of the campaign until you realize that that headline is actually your end line and it works across everything. So here's an example of a good end line that's a real one, right? DIY, it's in our DNA. That captures the truth, right? That was for Mitre 10, I believe. And here's a crap end line, succeed on, which tells me nothing, right? So even though they're usually short, end lines don't have to be. There's an example of one from a few years ago for fruit flavoured lollies. When it's inconvenient to eat fruit, eat Starburst. Here's another one for a well-known beer brand, and we might look at these ads in tutorials. Let nothing come between a man and a great beer. I will just skip through these because, yeah, but there were 2 TVCs. There was some print advertising as well. In an effort to impress his boss, Bevan disappointed his mouth. Let nothing come between a man and a great beer. Also works on here. So this looks like a wine list, and then in there it says, let nothing come between a man and a great beer. Right? It's really long for an end line, but people remembered it. So what's an end line? It's a slogan. It's a theme line. It's an insight. It's a campaign line. It's a strap line. It could be called all of these things, yeah? It's a way of summing up, yeah? It's the sign off to everything you have to say. Usually it's a way of signing off the SMP in a really engaging way. It's the one thought that you'd put on a t-shirt for that brand. It's the hashtag. And it's the first thing that you should think about when you're doing your creative executions. Start with the end line because it makes life easy. Okay, once you've got an end line, every headline doesn't have to be the same, which is cool. Okay, so you guys know this. The end line is great men deserve great style. And in each of these, the headlines are very different. And once you have an end line, your ads can work on any platform. So Snickers, you're not you when you're hungry. And their older campaigns, we'll look at this in class. This is a great ad. But here we go. Okay, pay me later. Al Capone. He'd never say that. You're not you when you're hungry. Casanova, not tonight, I've got a headache. A couple of coats of Magnolia, lovely job. Michelangelo, not going to happen, right? You're not you when you're hungry. So it works across all these different places. And once you've got an end line, your campaign can do some quite interesting things, which Snickers did. Okay, so here you've got a Bounty bar in a Snickers wrapper, and this is what they actually did. So Mars wrapped some of their other products in Snickers wrappers. They sent out Mars bars and they sent out Bounty bars in Snickers, and then waited for the complaints to come in, which they did. Okay, my Snickers was a Mars bar, not happy, sorted out. What's up, guys? Just bought a Snickers but ended up with a Bounty. Yeah, so then they went out in print and on social to apologise. You'd think we know the dangers of working while hungry, right? So totally on brand. But it turns out Gary and Quality Control skipped a few meals. Consequently, a few Mars and Bounty bars ended up in Snickers wrappers. If you got the wrong bar, email gary@snickersfactory.co.nz and let him know. We've given him 10,000 limited edition bars to make amends. You're not you when you're hungry, right? So they've got the line on there as well, and they've got this idea for a campaign. They literally sent out sorry bars, and it took off. Once you have an end line, you can always write the next ad. And there you go. Every week there is a Schitt's Creek GIF in there, and I managed to get it in just when you were doubting me. I did it. Yeah. So if we go back to that, you've got an end line, you can always write the next ad. Should have gone to Specsavers. We've seen examples of this. This campaign has run for more than 10 years. But this was a billboard that they had, or a poster that they had in London Underground. So you've got a captive audience stood there waiting for their train, okay, seeing these big posters up. And this says, I saw you on the 1651 from Finsbury Park to Brixton. You were the redhead wearing a long pink scarf, or maybe it was just more of your hair. You were quite short, but you could have been tall and just sitting down. You were definitely carrying a dog and or handbag and or child. If this sounds like you, call me. I was the guy who walked into the doors. Should have gone to Specsavers. And here's a really handy tip just to finish up. Okay, this is what I call the salivator. So it's like the selling elevator, and it tells you what order to do things in for every campaign that you are working on. Start with your insight. Always figure out your insight first. Let your insight lead you into your creative idea. So how are you going to take that insight to speak to your audience to communicate the SMP of the brief? Once you've got your idea, figure out what the line is that sums it all up. What is your end line going to be? Start at the end, right? Once you've got your end line, then you work on your executions. Okay? And that really quickly brings us to the end of our speed trip through why end lines are really important and how they can prop up your campaigns. Now, there are other ways to make something look and feel like a campaign, but this is where I want you to start for your creative executions for Neurological Foundation. And it is a really good point for you to start with for any campaign that you're working on. We're going to look at some examples in class. We're going to look back over an ancient, almost prehistoric Kiwi campaign that was huge and ran for years and years and years. And we're going to talk about that. And you will also have the opportunity to get some feedback on your briefs before you hand them in on Friday. Cool. That's it, team. Enjoy. We'll see you in class.